Shame on everyone who stole their childhood. The weapons manufacturers right here in the UK who profit off their pain. The media who cloaks each killing in the passive tense, not even offering justice in their deaths. The politicians who drop their kids at school and then go to Parliament and debate whether 13,000 is really enough for a ceasefire, is really enough to call it a genocide. Just this week, the UK abstained from a UN ceasefire vote, while my home country of the United States single-handedly vetoed it. The selfishness, the cowardliness, the racism of those that claim to represent us makes us furious. I'm so scared. Please come. Come take me. You will come and take me? These are the repeated words of Hind Rajab, begging for the Palestinian Red Crescent to rescue her. She was trapped in a car by Israel with her dead relatives, which they had killed moments before. After 3 hours, the line cut. Hind, along with her attempted rescuers, murdered. Months earlier, the grandfather of 3-year-old Reem Ali Badwan held and kissed her small body for the last time before laying to rest the soul of his soul. And just a few weeks ago, little Sidra Hassuna went from a 7-year-old filled with joy despite the circumstances to dying in the most inhumane way. These are just 3 of the almost 13,000 children Israel has murdered. Not just killed, but killed in the most inhumane circumstances. Their last moments spent under the rubble, crying out, begging for help, but like Hind, dying alone and scared. That's not to mention those who are still living but barely. The injured, the orphaned, the sick, the starving, the psychologically damaged beyond repair. I can't look at children the same anymore. I have a 4-year-old brother. I love him more than anything, but now that love is intertwined with the pain of the little boys in Gaza that look like him, maybe even share his name, but rest in mass graves. Every precious moment is tainted by Israel's inhumanity. I can't wish him good night without thinking of the orphans falling asleep in a cold hospital with no idea what the next day has in store for them. I can't watch him run without thinking of the images of amputated children. How am I supposed to watch him grow without grieving the 13,000 who never will? Once a source of innocence and hope, children are now a reminder of the horror in Gaza. Every day I walk through Bath and I see kids enjoying the carefree happiness that they deserve. Yet after my heart softens, it's always followed by a visceral punch to the gut. I can't help but think, why not our babies? What makes our children different? Why is their innocence not a sacred thing worth protecting too? They are less worthy of life because they are Palestinian. A word they were too young to even pronounce, much less understand the implications of. They were too small to grasp why the world wanted them gone. Yet in a span of a few months, they went from not being able to comprehend the concept of death to wishing for it so that their suffering would end. Shame on everyone who stole their childhood. The weapons manufacturers right here in the UK who profit off their pain. The media who cloaks each killing in the passive tense, not even offering justice in their deaths. The politicians who drop their kids at school and then go to Parliament and debate whether 13,000 is really enough for a ceasefire, is really enough to call it a genocide. Just this week, the UK abstained from a UN ceasefire vote, while my home country of the United States single-handedly vetoed it. The selfishness, the cowardliness, the racism of those that claim to represent us makes us furious. And underlying this anger is the quieter, yet more constant grief. Today is about giving that grief a voice. While we have and will continue to fight for those who live, let us also honor the children we've lost, those who even our best efforts will never bring back. Today, we will hold a kind of funeral procession for the victims, honoring them by announcing their names as we march, and then assigning blame where it belongs, killed by Israel. For example, Hind Rajab, killed by Israel. Reem Ali Badwan, killed by Israel. Sidra Hassouna, killed by Israel. Let's continue to do this as we march along. These past few months, we have been charging nonstop to fight the injustice, as we should. But I think anger is an easier emotion than grief. Because once we stop, we're forced to face the sheer amount that we have lost. But the losses and all their severity are worth remembering, however painful. Because if we don't memorialize them, who will? So when you hear a siren, then the march stops and we take a moment to reflect in silence. We've passed around signs with the names and faces of the children, as well as shrouded bodies, reminiscent of those that we've seen mothers wailing over in Gaza. Hold them up high as we reflect and invite onlookers to join us in understanding just how much agony we are grieving. And of course, we will continue to chant, "Free, free, Palestine," honoring the dead by fighting for those they left behind. We will display how our hearts have alternated between sorrow and anger, demonstrating the complexity and depth of Palestinian pain. There's so much to grieve, but for the next few hours, I want you to pick just one child and keep them in your heart. Maybe one you saw on social media whose face you will never forget, or better yet, one of the thousands upon thousands of nameless children whose stories will never see the light of day. When we are silent, mourn their dreams and their futures. And when we chant for a free Palestine, do it for the free Palestine that they deserved to see. Know that their souls are marching by us here today. And know that after the march, their eyes will continue to look down on you, hoping you will carry on the fight against the occupation they were too young to understand but lived and died by. And when it feels dark and hopeless, keep that child in your heart and use that grief and love to push you forward. So when Palestine is free one day, you can come visit their home. You can sit side by side with their spirit and watch the sunset over the shores of Gaza. Thank you.